Hi, and welcome to Managers One-on-One, a podcast about being your best as a manager at Microsoft. I'm Nicole Christie, a writer and producer on the employee communications team, and with me is Christina Watt.
That's me, Christina Watt, Director of Global HR, Manager, and Learning and Development Communications. On this podcast, we talk with Microsoft managers about their journey managing people, their successes, failures, and the joys and challenges of empowering people to be their best.
In this episode, we're talking with Jeff Lepine. Jeff is Principal Design Operations Manager in the Cloud and AI Design Studios. He came to Microsoft in 2015 after over a decade as a producer and artistic director in New York City. Given his experience in radio and theater, Jeff loves helping people discover their passions and develop them in their career. He'll tell us about the exercise he uses to help people determine what they love to do and what gives them energy, and how he coaches the people on his team, as well as his colleagues and those he mentors, in their career development. We'll also talk with Jeff about what empowerment means to him as a manager and what it looks like in practice.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you. I'm really honored to be here.
So, Jeff, we're going to talk about you and your incredible career trajectory and things that you're passionate about as a manager. So you came to Microsoft after over a decade as a leader in the arts and entertainment industry, of this fascinating background. So we would love to hear what led you to make the shift into technology. And we're also curious, how does managing in the arts compare to managing at Microsoft?
Sure. Thank you for that. I have a theater degree, which is, very normal here at Microsoft. I think you find a lot of people that have theater degrees, performance degrees that work at Microsoft. So I have a theater degree, and, I that's what I did for a good portion of my life, is that I was on stage or producing things that were going on stage. So I was in New York and doing all of that. And it wasn't really an intentional move to come into tech. It was more that the role that I had, I was a producer for kind of high-end fashion photographers, and we were traveling the world and doing all kinds of amazing things and music videos, and really a fortunate gig. But I knew that gig was coming to an end. That role would have been the role that I would have had forever. I would have been the lead producer for them for as long as I wanted. I knew I wanted more. I wanted to learn and grow in different ways. And so, talked about it with my wife, and we decided, hey, let's choose some spots that we would like to live in. The Pacific Northwest was always one of those spots that we loved. And I was just really fortunate that a role opened up on the HoloLens program for an executive producer. And it was the exact role that I'd always done as a producer. But then at the bottom, it said, would prefer someone with live theater experience. And I was like, what?
Built for you.
Yeah, it was one of those, I remember showing my wife the LinkedIn job post, and I was like, this is fake, right? This is at Microsoft. This is, exactly. Yep. And I'm one of those few people that I blindly applied on LinkedIn. I got a call from a recruiter. I went through the whole process just as, anyone would coming in from outside of the company. And I was fortunate enough to get that gig. And yeah, it's been such an amazing journey, and taking all of the amazing things that I think an arts background, a performance background teaches you about ensemble, and really how do I take all of those learnings and adapt it to my day-to-day here at Microsoft in a full new world with words that I don't necessarily understand or didn't understand at the time.
And acronyms.
Acronyms. So yeah, my first meeting, I very much remember being like, well, I got about 10% of that. That's fun. But to go back to your question, Nicole, managing in the arts is, I think, very, very similar to the things we find here as managers at Microsoft. It's all about, how do you build that trust? Giving full support, actors, models, comedians, whoever it was that I was working with, program managers here, designers, they all want to know that they're supported. And I learned that even as an actor, you so badly just, hey, what can you get from your director? What can you get from your artistic director to get that support that you need so you know how to move forward? It's all about, being that mentor, being that sponsor, and really having their back. So I come from a pretty heavy improvised comedy background. And one of the sayings that, you hear yes and quite a bit, that's very much become part of, I think, what a lot of people know improv as. There's a saying, though, before you go on stage that many theaters and many performers use, and it's, you make eye contact with the person you're about to go on stage with, or the group you're about to go on stage with. You look them in the eye and you say, I got your back. And then you go out on stage. And it's one of those things that, hey, no matter what is about to happen, no matter where it goes, no matter what choices you make, anything that's going to happen, I got you. We are an ensemble. We're working on this together. And so how I kind of equate that here at Microsoft, it's very much the same thing. I want my teams, I want anyone that I work with to know, hey, I got your back. It's not always going to be easy. We're probably going to fail, and that's okay. And we're going to lift each other up along the way. But, the difference between an ensemble and a team, I always like to say, like a team is trying to win or lose. A team has a win-loss record at the end of a season, where an ensemble really tries to pull together and use every individual's skill set to try to move on to that next thing, to try to accomplish something together. We're utilizing each other's skill sets to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. But the idea that as a manager, as a leader, I learn more from my directs every single day than I possibly could just by myself, right? So, really pulling in, again, that ensemble and saying, what can we learn from each other? How can we grow and learn together to create that even stronger ensemble?
Well, and to that end, you've had to kind of adjust how you play different parts in the ensemble too, because I understand that you've had a journey that's, not exactly uncommon at Microsoft, where you've been a manager, then you've maybe been an IC, and then a manager again. And can you tell us a little bit about, how that experience has been for you and how you shift, between those roles and mindsets?
Yes, I've definitely gone from manager to IC back to manager. When this happened to me most recently, it actually gave me a good pause to reflect on the way I manage and the things that I ask of my team and how I ask them to be fully engaged and how I try to empower them and get them involved in maybe even more things than just the work that we do. And as an IC, taking that step back and saying, hey, does this work for me? Like it gave me a chance to really be in my direct shoes and say, does this actually motivate me? Does this process that I've set up, is it actually moving me forward in a way that I want to be moved forward? It gave me a good chance to reflect on that. But I'm very happy to be back being a manager. I feel like it's a sweet spot for me. I thoroughly enjoy it. When you talk about like what empowers people, what gets you up in the morning, it's that for me. It's really that team. And I don't say that ironically, or I know it's somewhat cliche, but that is like the products and the services that we offer. I totally understand the value of that and how those need to be to quality and of quality for our customers. And that's, the bottom line there for sure. But I also understand that you got to motivate the people around you. You have to find out what makes them tick, do all of that. Happy people make happy products.
Yeah.
There's a reason that saying is around, because it's true.
It's 100% true. And what you were saying about kind of gives you, when you were in your IC role, you kind of are able to take a step back and look at, how do I manage? Does it work for me? There's, the old saying about a good teacher remembers what it's like to be a student, or a director remembers what it's like to be an actor. I feel like it kind of gives you that, like, I remember what it feels like to be in this position and do the things that I've been doing. Does that still work? And then to evolve. But I'm curious, you talked about empowerment and teaming. What are you most passionate about as a manager, particularly as you reflect on your new manager role? And how do you bring that to life for your team?
I really love knowing what gets people up in the morning. Where do you want to go? How do you want to grow and learn? What are your passions? Where do you want to succeed in your career? And even outside, like, where do you want to succeed in your home life, in your personal life? All of those things. I love that. I very much want, and I try to make it as apparent as I can to anyone that works with me, this is the role you have right now. I understand that this is not going to be the role that you're going to have in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. You want to grow and learn. So I love digging in on that and really finding out what makes somebody tick so I can help them as best as I can, or find other people around the company that can help them, move them along. I always say, like, I'm going to be so happy that if I see you in 5 years and I give you a high five in a hallway or at a coffee shop, because you're so jazzed about what you're doing. Not because you stayed in the same role, just because it was there. How can we continue to push you to whatever's next? I love those conversations.
We connected with you because one of your colleagues reached out to tell us about you and an exercise that you lead called 100 Dreams. So we want to hear more about this exercise and how you use it as a manager.
Yeah, thank you. The 100 Dreams, it came to me. It's from a book. It's called The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. For me, it was exploring a little bit more about, what does it mean to be a good manager? What does it mean to be engaged with what your team wants to achieve outside of work and of course, inside of work as well? So it's pretty simple. I ask every team that I've been a part of, write down 100 dreams, each individual.
Okay, I just have to say that just doesn't sound very simple.
I was going to say, I think that's not an easy thing to do.
Okay, so I'm so happy. I'm so happy you say this.
Know.
Oh, everything. Well, first, your reactions are spot on. Basically, everyone gets to like 7. First, they're like, yeah, no problem. I have all kinds of dreams. Here's all the things that I want to do in my life. And because you want to try to make it where it's, they can be small, but they can also be big. But I try to focus them away from work. Like essentially, I don't want them to like write down OKRs for the business that they're, or anything like that. So I try to focus them away from work. But everyone's like, yeah, no problem, no problem. And then they get to like 7 and they're like, I'm out of dreams. I have no more dreams in my life. There's nothing I could possibly want to do any more than this. And so, okay, so I'll pause there for a second to say then so I have them write down 100 dreams, but then I hold a meeting and I'm actually just about to do this for my current team. So I pull them together and then we share the dreams. We openly share the dreams. We break it down between, here's something I want to achieve in the next 12 months. Here's something I want to achieve in the next 1 to 5 years. And then here's something 5 years and beyond. What ends up happening is, Christina, you would share a dream and it would be like, I don't know, I want to do a road trip across the United States. And so what happens is you share these dreams and of course you share what you want to share. I would never force anyone to share dreams that are more personal to them, but you share what you want to share. The team, the ensemble, adopts these dreams. I now have a vested interest in, Christina, you driving across the United States. And if I know that there's going to be a slow period at work or something, I'm like, hey, Christina, this would be a perfect time for you to drive across the United States. I try to enable you to fulfill those dreams. And then, there are even simple things like there was a group that wanted to learn how to pickle things. So they got together as a team outside of work, and they went to a pickling class together. And then they brought us all their pickles into the team. So you can see how very quickly it becomes, and this goes back to the arts, right? How can you lean on each other? How can you trust that, hey, I'm there for you, you're here for me. I know what you're trying to do. I have a vested interest in helping you grow and learn more. So if I know what your dreams are and I see, and I see something that might relate to that, I'm going to come into the next day and say, hey, Nicole, I just saw this. And I think this might help you achieve one of your dreams. And so what does that do for you?
Wow.
It makes you feel great about being on that team, one, right? It makes you feel empowered to be on that team, be part of something that's bigger than just, shipping a product. We spend so much time with everyone that we work with that it's such an added benefit to feel empowered by the people that you work with and know that they're all helping you achieve your dreams even outside of work. I think it's a very quick and easy but meaningful way to get a little bit underneath the surface of who we all are in this ensemble.
Yeah. And I think what's cool about it, like you said, a lot of the dreams, some of them may have to do with the role. And so you can think about that in the context of someone's career development. But also, we talk at Microsoft about being who you are, being seen, being valued for who you are, and feeling a sense of belonging. And so when you're talking about this, I'm like, this gives everybody visibility into who someone is, what lights them up, what excites them. And then there's like kind of this natural bond that comes from it. And then from that, exactly what you're saying about you feel like you can lean on each other.
That's right.
And that you are invested, not only you as your manager, but the team in each other, which is just like, it just hits on so many levels, not just, the career piece of it, but from a personal development perspective too.
Absolutely. It's the whole, the saying Microsoft runs on trust. And I know that when we say that, it doesn't necessarily, we're not talking about the people, we're talking about our products and services, but I like to think about it as, yeah, we do run on trust. And as managers, I need to really build that trust. And as an ensemble, we need to build that trust so that when things aren't going well in a shipping cycle or when things aren't going well with a customer, that we can talk about it openly and honestly. If we have those relationships at work, it makes it that much easier. I know you have my back. I've shared a lot of things with you. Yeah.
Yeah. You're creating psychological safety, essentially a safe place for people to share, feel seen, feel supported. And that goes a really long way.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually just taking management class this morning. And one of the slides that popped up was the companies that have an empowered workforce, they're twice as likely to help others. They're 3 times as likely to do something good for the company. And they're 5 times as likely to recommend the company's products and services. And this is just from being an empowered employee, feeling good about where you work and who you work with. You want all of that for the company. But what it does to the person, that's what I love about it. And that's what I get the most joy out of as a manager, is seeing that person flourish. And sometimes just comes from, hey, I want to learn how to pickle things, you know?
Well, yeah, there's something wonderful about knowing that your manager has your back in other ways too. And I'm imagining that it gives people the courage to show up in new ways. And one of the things that we're really focusing on right now is having people have more continuous career conversations. We're really starting to encourage these conversations to be ongoing, much like perspectives and feedback and things like that. And so by creating this deep interest in the person, that you might get a little richer insights into professionally where they want to go.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, again, like it goes building that trust. And you mentioned feedback, actually. And that's something that, again, going back to my arts background, and I'll hit on that before kind of really diving into the question you asked. Feedback was such a giant part of who I was. You get done with a performance, you get done with a rehearsal, you get done with an audition, it could be like equated to us like an interview, and what you're waiting for. You do all of that. So then you sit in front of your manager, your director, your artistic director, and you get feedback, reams and reams of paper that are just like, you didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. Try this next time. Like, bim, and you don't respond. You listen. You take it in and you know that you're getting this feedback because ultimately, what are you trying to do? You're trying to make the ensemble better. This isn't about you. This is about making the ensemble, trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve. So I'm a big fan of open and honest feedback. Now, that doesn't mean negative feedback. That means all feedback. So with that, I feel like you can build a really good sense of trust with the team. And what I try to do, and I kind of hinted at this a little earlier, but I very much tell people, what do you want to do? Not this job. You got this job. You're great at this job. And you're working towards all the impactful things that we've aligned on. Next, or not even like what's the job you want to have next. Let's just talk about where you want to grow and learn. And I want them to know that they can come to me, they can come to my manager and have that open, honest conversation that they're not going to be in this role forever. I don't want them to be in this role forever. I want them to continue to learn and grow. And I think that's something that as managers, maybe just in the past little while where that's become okay to open up and say, I know you're not going to work here forever. I know that you probably want to learn and grow in different ways. I want to support you in that. My job is to empower you and make sure that you're getting what you need day to day. That is my fundamental job as a manager. Helping them to find that path, making sure that the doors are open for them, introducing them to people across Microsoft that might have a better idea on like if somebody wants to move into research or if somebody wants to, hey, I heard about this Teams thing. That sounds cool. Whatever it is, I say, well, I know someone over there. I know a chief of staff over there. I know a program manager over there. Why don't I introduce you? And it doesn't have to go anywhere. Just have a conversation. What's their day in the life like? Is that something you'd be interested in? And then you can start to carve out things in their actual day-to-day that maybe blend more towards that. If it is somebody wants to move into research, how can you carve out a little bit more research work in their design work so they get a taste of that? But I firmly believe that's our job as a manager. How do you empower your staff? How do you push them forward? How do you allow them to continue to learn and grow?
Mm-hmm. One thing that we talk about at Microsoft is talent is not yours or mine, it's ours. And so what you're doing, Jeff, is recognizing we want you to have a long storied career at Microsoft. And so that means you as a manager, you're just saying, I want to help you grow so that you can keep contributing and having more and more impact here at the company. And that is, I think that's one of the most incredible things that managers can do.
Absolutely. And I feel like I've been very fortunate. I've had wonderful managers that have pushed me. Like, again, we talked a little bit about my background, but being an actor, being a commercial actor, being a producer in the arts, and then coming to Microsoft, I never would have thought, one, that I would have worked on a program like HoloLens, two, been a chief of staff for a substantial size business, and then being in design for Dynamics. Like, there's no one-to-one there. These are not apples to apples. But because I've had wonderful managers that have pushed me and be like, hey, you're capable of this. You have an interest in this. Go learn that. That's what I want to see from the people that I work with as well.
I think you're encouraging people. I think Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it, but it's following your curiosity. And when you follow your curiosity, these doors open. So you've done that for yourself. And then what you're saying now is you're doing that for others. You're giving that back. And that's a real gift that you can give as a leader.
Oh, thank you. You said following your curiosity. We had a saying back in the day, it was follow the fear.
Ooh.
But what that means is, Let's be honest, anytime there's change, whether it be a reorg or you're going for a new role or you're just being put into a new position where you have different set of deliverables, that's scary. And as managers, I think we need to remember that, but then also encourage everyone, hey, follow that fear, because there's wonderful things on the other side of that fear. Because really, what is fear? Fear is, it breaks down to, you just want to be successful. And the fear is that you're not going to be successful. Concentrate on the success part of that and how you can move forward. I think as managers, our job is to make sure that they are pushing for that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One thing that you talked about earlier too, and this is coming into play in what you just said, is the importance of empowerment. And at Microsoft, we define the role of the manager as to deliver success through empowerment and accountability by modeling, coaching, and caring. And so I'd love to hear more about how empowerment is really key to helping people achieve things and what that means to you as a manager, which you've talked about a little bit, but how do you do that specifically?
Empowerment, for me, it comes down to, again, to that building trust. That trust needs to be there in order to make sure that they know that they can be empowered. If they know that they have someone that they can lean on, they know that they have someone that's going to value their ideas, that they're going to shine that light on them. I want to do that so they know that they can take those risks, try new things, propose new ideas. Empowerment for me also comes down to sharing control. As managers, sometimes I think we're set up like, well, I'm the manager and I do all the things and I have all the answers. And I'm very honest with my team that like, I do not have all the answers. My job is to bring us together so we can find those answers. You're paving that path for them through all the things that you're talking about in your one-on-ones, their career conversations, even tiny things like the 100 dreams. You're finding out what really makes them tick, what brings them to work every day, what lights that fire underneath them, so you can stoke that fire and continue to push them forward. And I share my thoughts like super early and often, and I bring my team in on the decision making. And at the very least, if I can't bring them early enough into the decision making, I try to make sure that they understand the why behind it. My hope is with all of those things, they feel empowered. They feel like they own their destiny and they have somebody pushing them forward.
So, Jeff, we like to wrap every episode with one question. If you could give managers one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say make it a practice to give genuine thanks. Give genuine thanks, give genuine credit, give encouragement, and almost go above and beyond. Like never stop doing that. Be outgoing with your praise, be outgoing with your acknowledgement of others. Lift up those around you.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Truthfully, I was nervous coming in. You know, you've had some amazing managers that I look up to on the podcast. And, you know, Nicole, when you reached out to me about being on the podcast, I'm not going to lie, there's imposter syndrome all over the place up until, well, probably about, 20 minutes ago. Thank you for having such a warm and welcoming environment. And really, thank you for this podcast. It's something that I've definitely used as a manager and will continue to use. So thanks.
Thank you so much. We want to thank Jeff Lepine for joining us today. And what I loved about what he shared with us is really caring through 100 Dreams and the work that he does with his team. He cares about what they're passionate about. And it might not just be for career development, but also things that give them energy outside of work. And he looks at how he can support that as a manager and how that also gets the team invested in people's growth and development and passions.
Yeah, I so loved talking to Jeff today. His energy and passion for being a manager is so clear. And what I really admire is his courage. He's doing things a little differently. And it's such a cool and different way to bring people along. And it will make a big difference.
And that's it for another episode of Managers One-on-One. Thank you to our producers, Dave Nelson, Stacey Harris, and everyone at Lens Group Media. Until next time, I'm Nicole Christie.
And I'm Christina Watt. Thanks for joining us for Managers One-on-One. Here's to being your best as a manager and bringing out the best in everyone. For more episodes of Managers One-on-One, visit aka.ms/manager podcast. And to access your manager learning path, visit aka.ms/my required training.